Well, good Monday morning to you. Welcome, to our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. I'm your host, Jim Tabor, along with Dr. Jim and Janine Fox of Doctor's Nutrition, located on Cal and Lorraine Road in Gulfport, just south of Pass Road. We do this every Monday morning, and it is a live show. And we invite you to call in and ask questions regarding the topic of the day or anything regarding your health, because this show is all about trying to help you live a healthier lifestyle. Our phone lines are 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. And this is IBS month.
Yes.
If you don't know what IBS is, it's irritable bowel syndrome. And this is something that millions of people deal with on a daily basis. What is, IBS, and what part of the body does it affect?
Well, I mean, the bowel, obviously, so the digestive tract, the GI tract, we call it, gastrointestinal. So that's what it affects. And it can, like you said, if we look at the numbers, about every 10 people that walk through the front door, at least 3 or 4 of them are going to have some sort of IBS problem. I mean, that's basically what it gets back to. All sorts of digestive issues. It can alternate between the constipation and diarrhea. So just a lot of uncomfortable gastrointestinal problems.
So there's it can be 2 or 3 different types of IBS.
Yep, yeah. They call it IBS-D and IBS-C, which one stands for diarrhea, one stands for constipation. But like he said, is a lot of people alternate between the two. So it's not, they'll have extreme constipation and then all of a sudden they start having diarrhea because it's been so long since they went. And then you'll have the people, probably the more common is just constant diarrhea. That's probably the more constant that we see and it's a lot of the people that come in. So we hear it a lot. And there's some people that it's even so severe they can't hardly leave the house.
Right.
So it definitely affects your life. So that's the problem.
And what are some of the signs of it besides constipation or diarrhea?
Well, just bloating and just uncomfortable and pain, and people just talk about just being uncomfortable, especially after eating.
Oh, there are certain things that throat issues this morning. That has nothing to do with constipation or diarrhea. Constipation of the mouth, I've been told before. But there are certain things that I can eat that just, tear my stomach up. And it's like, you better not get too far away from a bathroom.
Yeah. Well, there's no doubt that some foods are more adept at creating that problem in certain individuals. And it could be a food sensitivity, could be anything going along with that. So that, we see it, anything can set it off, whether it's a food that you, like you said, you don't get agree with or doesn't agree with you. And then, you eat something that's maybe something that's just not cooked properly or something. So anything like that can set it off. Yeah.
And food allergies is probably one of the things that we find affects it the most.
Right.
Because when we do food allergy testing and the people follow what it says, it dramatically changes the problem. And we definitely are seeing people get more problems as they age. So we are seeing that can happen at any age.
What age does it usually start?
It can be any age, and we actually see kids. People bring their kids in that are already having problems like that. But then we definitely see it increasing as people age as well. So it's not just something that you're born with. A lot of times you can acquire it, and with a lot of food allergies, you acquire it by eating a food too often as well. People don't realize when they eat the same food over and over again, they're more likely to develop a sensitivity to it. And there's true food allergies, and then there's sensitivities. You can have either. And we've, like I said, over the years, seen people, I've had people that's had it for 30 years, and then when we do the test and they follow the diet, they can't believe the problems go away within a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's why I say, so if anybody has severe, not just a little eat something and it hurts your stomach every once in a while, that's one thing. But when it's a chronic, life-affecting problem, then you definitely need to do something for it. And the first thing we always tell people to do is a food allergy test.
Right. Are there any particular foods that can be the culprit?
Well, there's some that we see as the most common, and wheat and gluten are big ones. And you do not have to be a celiac in order for gluten to cause you a problem. Because celiac is an extreme gluten problem. You can actually have a gluten sensitivity and still have problems. There's actually a lot of the, Dr. Perlmutter, which is really big in natural medicine, written a lot of books. He actually says it's not a question of if you're sensitive to gluten, it's how sensitive are you? Because he says everyone is sensitive.
To me, what affects me usually is spicy or rich foods.
Well, that's, some people are like that as well.
Right, right.
And sometimes that could even be the gallbladder, kind of flaring up. There's going to be other things that actually trigger, gallbladder can actually trigger it as well.
Oh, yeah. And that's part of that digestive system, the gallbladder. So it can easily get involved in it.
I mean, if it's untreated, can it lead to more serious problems?
Well, yeah. I mean, sure. I mean, untreated, we don't know where it'll go. And like she said, somebody's got a real bad problem. Say, for instance, the diarrhea phase. If they have that, it totally disrupts their life. So, it can be life altering, if you will.
It can affect nutrient absorption. It can affect, electrolytes. It can affect all those things, which definitely plays a role in a lot of things. Because when you get your electrolytes off, that makes a difference as well. So it definitely plays a role in a lot of other health problems. But like I said, most people's are probably not as severe. But then you still get a pretty good percentage that is. Yeah.
Yeah, depends on it depends on what I eat. Like, I'll be honest, this past weekend we had a crawfish boil.
Yeah?
Yeah. Barely made it home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Barely made it home.
Might not want to eat spicy. If you know that something triggers it, that's number one. Stay away from it.
Yeah.
If you know it.
But sometimes
I know, but if you know it, you should stay away from it. That's what we always say. Okay, if people say, well, every time I eat this food is when it comes. Well, that's easy.
Don't eat it.
Don't eat it.
Don't eat it.
But it's so good.
But a lot of times people can't figure it out. They're like, I thought it was this, and then I stopped that, and I still have the problem. And I, got off of grains. I got off of dairy because dairy can definitely cause problems too. So,
and it's got to where dairy will do that to me. And I know you, you're like me. When we were a lot younger, we used to love to, drink milk with just about anything.
Yeah. So
I just can't do it now.
So you got to figure out, and that's why the food allergy test definitely helps because it gives you all the foods you have to stay off of, and it definitely makes a difference. Sometimes you'll think it's just certain things, and you find out that it's other things as well.
Okay. All right. Our phone lines are open at 896-713-800-349-0713. We have a question that someone's called in, a viewer has called in. We'll answer that in just a moment, but we're going to take a break first, and then we'll come back with your question and more. Just give us a call. And welcome back. It's our Monday morning live edition of the Doctor's Nutrition Show. I'm Jim Tabor, along with Dr. Jim and Janine Fox. We're talking about IBS this morning, irritable bowel syndrome. And someone called in wants to know what causes leaky bowels.
Yeah, typically it's termed leaky gut, and something like IBS. I mean, just that inflammation in the gut, which messes up we've talked about it a million times, the microbiome. All the probiotics and stuff, the bacteria that we have growing there, the beneficials. And if we mess those up, we can get inflammation. Inflammation leads to a leaky gut.
Yeah, and leaky gut can be from so many things. I mean, having yeast problems can lead to leaky gut, bacteria, viruses, all kind of things can start it. And then once it starts, the problem is it actually increases your food allergies. People don't realize that. Basically things leak into the gut and the body has an immune response to it. So there's no doubt leaky gut plays a huge role in IBS. So one of the things that we do for leaky gut is something called GI Essentials. GI Essentials has everything in it to heal the lining of the gut. Now, at the same time, you got to try to figure out, especially if it's bad enough, what's causing it and getting rid of the problem. We also have some pretty advanced stool testing that you could do that actually looks for, do you have a bacterial overgrowth? Do you have a yeast overgrowth? Do you have some things are normal parasites that people have, but yet those parasites get overgrown. And it's actually, yes, it's a parasite, but it's one that we all have, but yet if it gets too overgrown, it starts causing problems too. So, and it also looks for inflammation, because like I said, inflammation probably is the start of all disease, if you look at it. And what makes it inflamed, it can be all kind of problems. So inflammation is definitely one of the things that causes a problem, and the body usually has inflammation because of something going on that shouldn't be there.
Okay.
Yep.
All
right. Someone else wants to know, I'm very fair-skinned, but I can't get out in the sun much because I burn too easy. How do I know if I'm getting enough vitamin E?
Blood test.
Blood test. That's all. The only way you can tell vitamin D. And I will say the fair complected people are the ones that tend to make it the best. There's no doubt the people that come in that are fair, you're redheaded, blue-eyed, light-skinned, they actually a lot of times are the ones that have enough vitamin D. But you got to check it to know, because every once in a while I get one and that never goes outside. And if you never go outside, you are probably one that don't have enough. Now with dark-skinned people or even people that tan well, even if you go out all the time, you can still be deficient in vitamin D. That's what we find. We've had a roofer that didn't wear a shirt and stayed on the roof 8 hours a day, dark, vitamin D deficient.
Really?
Yep. So the only way you truly know is to check it.
That's it.
Okay, back to the IBS. Is there any kind of diet? I mean, if you're having an issue with it and you're not really sure what's causing it, I mean, is there any kind of foods?
There is
I know
something
you
called
said
a
stay away from grains.
Yeah, there's something called a FODMAP diet.
Yeah.
And that's actually one that you can get on the internet and look at, and some people do well with that.
It's the what?
It's FODMAP.
FODMAP. FODMAP.
Yeah.
FODMAP. FODMAP.
FODMAP is kind of a weird name, but
is.
it actually, it does take away a lot of the things that turn to sugar and a lot of the things that ferment in the stomach, and so it changes. It even has foods that you can do in one state, not in another state. Like a banana, you can do, I think, if it's like almost green, but you can't do it if it's ripened.
Right.
Because then the more sugar it has, the more likely it is to cause a problem.
Yeah.
All right. Another caller. What exactly is Crohn's disease and how do you treat it?
Well, that's an autoimmune problem.
Yeah.
Okay, first off, that's what you're looking at there. And you have to treat it like any autoimmune problem. In other words, you can't do things to stimulate the immune system. You have to do things to quieten it down, get down the inflammation, keep the inflammation under control. That's the big thing with Crohn's.
Yeah, and Crohn's, like I said, it is more of a systemic disease where it's your body attacking its own intestines.
Right.
And there's no doubt Crohn's can make the diarrhea, it can make all the same problems as IBS, but not all IBS is Crohn's. Crohn's has a lot of bleeding associated with it, where you can actually bleed a lot. And again, that GI Essentials that we mentioned, we use it a lot for Crohn's. Really good at healing. And we've had a lot of people that can control their Crohn's and ulcerative colitis way better using the GI Essentials. But at the same time, you got to do something for the immune system. We usually try to do something like Olivir, definitely probiotics, because probiotics are actually very supportive of the immune system, and it's actually 70 to 80% of your immune system. I've always thought autoimmune diseases are because something in your body that shouldn't be there. Again, something with Crohn's, definitely the stool testing to look for underlying pathogens that shouldn't be there would be a really good idea. And also, doesn't hurt to do food allergy test either, so that you can see which foods might aggravate you as well. But Crohn's is actually a more serious problem because it can cause a lot of issues.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
How important are probiotics when it comes to treating IBS?
Very.
Ultimately. I mean, probably the thing is ultimately, seriously. It's one of those things where, and we've talked about it a million times over the years, and people still, they just don't, so we say, get it. They think, well, I eat a little bit of yogurt here and there. A cup of yogurt's probably got a couple of 100,000 bacteria in it, maybe, if that. When our gut has trillions, sort of like the national debt. I mean, it's trillions, big. And so, when you put in a couple 100,000, well, that doesn't pay down the national debt. Doesn't pay much down on the biotics in the gut either. So it really doesn't alter the microbiome that much. And takes some serious.
Because what I take is a 50 billion a
Yeah.
day.
And
50
50 billion is kind of a minimum, we tell people. Now, we definitely have, we even have a really strong one with someone that's had a big flare up, or they do have Crohn's, or they took an antibiotic, which will actually wipe out everything. It actually is 350 billion.
Wow.
And it's like a 2-week jump start to get your probiotics back into line. Because it's very important. Digestive enzymes, probiotics, and healing the gut are the 3 big things we always say with any gut problems.
Right.
Whether it's IBS, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, any of the digestive issues, you have to make sure, because health always starts at the gut. And so when you have a bad gut, usually all your health suffers.
Well, y'all always talk about if you have taken antibiotics over a period of time for, you know, something.
And actually,
or whatever.
somebody earlier asked about what causes leaky gut. That's probably one of the biggest things.
Really?
Is taking an antibiotic and not replacing your good bacteria afterwards. And I think some of the research shows if you don't take something to replace that good bacteria, it can take up to 2 years after an antibiotic to get your gut back where it should be if you don't supplement.
And think about how many people take an antibiotic yearly or even almost monthly for various things. So.
All right.
Yeah.
I have a really bad case of constipation, and Miralax is not helping. I was wondering what I can do to help with this problem.
I always say if there's a severe problem that things aren't helping, you got to look for other reasons as well, because even thyroid issues are one of the big things we see that can actually make constipation. So we always recommend doing the lab work and making sure there's no other underlying problem that you don't know about.
Right.
Okay.
That's the starting point.
That's the start
Then
point.
it goes from there.
Yeah.
All right. 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. Our phone lines are open. We'll come back with our last segment in just a moment, along with this week's special. And welcome back. It's our final segment of this morning's show, 896-0713 or 800-349-0713. We're talking about irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS. Or if you have a question regarding anything else, of course, you're more than welcome to call in and ask. Let's go ahead and show you what this week's special is.
Yeah, the GI Essentials. We just talked about.
Yeah, we use GI Essentials a lot for gut issues. Definitely use it for leaky gut. And it has things, we used to have to use multiple products to get what was in GI Essentials in one thing. Now it's kind of all in one thing, and it's a powder, and it actually tastes good. It's a berry flavor, so you can just mix it up and drink it. It can be even used on kids. We just use a lower dose, so it's one that is definitely beneficial for the gut. It has stuff like glutamine and marshmallow root and deglycerized licorice and slippery elm and zinc carnosine and arabinogalactin, and it does. I mean, it
sounds like some witch doctor would put together.
It is.
So it keeps going on and on about. It has a lot of things in it that actually definitely help the GI tract.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, it tastes good. It is a powder, because if you did it in pill form, people say, well, do you have it in pills? Well, if we had it in pills, there's 10 grams per scoop, which would be about 20 pills, because usually you can get about 500 milligrams in a capsule. So unless you want, I mean, that's a
lot of pills.
It's a lot of pills.
Along with other stuff that you take.
The powder is, well, it's got 5 grams of just glutamine. Yeah. And glutamine's an amino acid that plays a huge role in helping tighten up that junction for the leaky gut.
Yeah, especially for something like leaky gut.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because we have to heal the lining of the gut. It's not just stop the diarrhea. I mean, you could take Imodium or something like that maybe and stop the diarrhea, perhaps, but it doesn't heal the gut. And so something like the GI Essentials gives you everything you need to actually heal it. That's the key. You've got to heal this thing up, and then find out what's causing the problem and try to stop that or change that.
And I know there's probably so many people out there that deal with the IBS or diarrhea on a regular basis that are just sitting there popping,
pills.
Yeah, and like I said, you really, I mean, that food allergy test, it's not the cheapest test. It's like $450. So I know that's going to be, somebody's question, or we'll get a call. So it's not but it does 4 different immune responses.
And insurance does not cover it.
Right. It does true food allergies. It does your sensitivities. It does a complement reaction to see if it's accelerated. So, and then it even looks for something called an IgG4, which actually protects you against an allergen. So sometimes you can eat a food if you're making enough of that, as long as you don't have eosinophilia. So there's definitely things you got to look at on that. Yeah.
All right. Can you talk about some of the prescription medications for IBS?
No, we don't do prescription medications, so we're not the ones to ask about prescription medications. That you call your doctor or your pharmacist, and they can probably help you there.
Pharmacists is always probably the best for prescription.
Yeah, y'all
really are.
Again, y'all mention that all the time.
Oh yeah, all of them. They're the go-to.
About prescription medication,
They're the go-to.
Exactly. That's what they train for.
That's right. Exactly.
They know all that stuff. So again, IBS going from one extreme to the other, it can be either constipation.
Yep.
Or it can be diarrhea.
That's why the probiotics can help both of those problems too. Probiotics is used for constipation and diarrhea. So it's one that definitely, like I said, very important. Digestive enzymes, very important, and something like to heal the gut. And like other than GI Essentials, we also have colostrum, Colostrum powder is another thing that's very healing to the gut and very good at helping leaky gut and helping IBS, and as long as you don't have a dairy allergy.
Well, we have the one that's
and then we have the dairy-free called SBI Protect. So we have a lot of different things, not just those, and that's why we kind of look at an individual basis and see what kind of problems you're having.
Is there any particular age that it's good to go ahead and add a probiotic to your daily regimen?
We have a lot. We actually have infant probiotics. So yeah, it could be as soon as they're born.
Is it the arabinogalactin? Is that
now, arabinogalactin is a prebiotic.
Yeah.
So a prebiotic feeds your probiotics.
Okay,
so it gives it good food so it doesn't die because they're alive. And good bacteria has to have a good food source or it don't keep growing. You want them to grow. And that's what the arabinogalactin is, and that can be really given at any age too. And a little baby can take arabinogalactin.
I remember you talked about
just stick your finger in it and stick it in their mouth. So arabinogalactin is something that definitely can be do.
And it's good to get started on a good regimen of healthy supplements at an early age.
Yes,
it is, because the food supply, the food that we get it's not as fresh as it was.
So processed.
Well, yes, it's processed too. But even if you go buy, fresh produce, produce that's trucked into your local grocery store that came from California or Mexico or somewhere else, that's a long truck drive. So it's not real fresh. I don't care how it looks. It's still not as fresh as if the farmer chopped it down yesterday and it's on your grocery store today. That's the way food used to be. We didn't have grocery stores that had that stuff.
That was one of the things that I miss about living on my parents' farm.
Yeah.
We had they had all the vegetables and everything right there, and of course Mom would can it or whatever or freeze it. So during the off season you had it.
You had it, right.
But nowadays again. But as you always talk about when you go into the grocery store, go to the outer
Always
edges.
Always better to stay away from packaged processed foods. And another thing that has been shown to increase leaky gut is all the pesticides that people are getting everywhere. So that's again, eat organic, eat non-processed foods.
Right.
Okay. Caller wants to know: is fish oil good for anxiety? What else is fish oil good for?
It is. It's one of the things that's definitely been shown to help depression and anxiety. I would say kind of depression they've kind of linked in there. There's a lot of studies on it that and vitamin D definitely makes a difference. But what else is it good for? It's good for, man's skin. It's good for your hair. Yeah. It's good for hair loss. It's good for heart. It's good for kidneys. It's good for
some people. It's good for their hair.
Some people, right?
So I would say it's good for almost everything and overall health. You have to have omega-3s, and the American diet is very deficient in omega-3s.
Yeah.
Very deficient.
Yeah,
almost everybody we check, there's something called an omega check, where you can actually look if someone's not taking fish oil. They're probably deficient.
Yeah. And even if they're just taking a small amount, they're probably not right.
They're probably deficient as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because I take it every day.
Yeah.
A couple in the morning, one at night before I go to bed, and it's made such a big difference with all the different supplements.
Like I said, skin is a big thing too. People don't realize. Got to grease up from the inside too. It does help. But and I did want to mention, just because this week we are closed on Friday.
Okay.
For Good Friday. So we are open Easter Monday, but we are closed Good Friday and Saturday.
Okay.
So just to let everybody out there know, and
that's it.
Come Monday through Thursday this week.
And I always want to remind you that there's a great deal of information that you can find on doctorsnutrition.com or go to their Facebook page. Next week,
we're going to be talking about dementia and some of the things. It's on the rise, and there's a lot of studies that show how it is a greatly on the rise.
Really?
So, yes.
As a matter of fact, we got a current article that I just printed out last week about how prevalent it really is. It's going to kind of scare you. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
It really is.
So be sure that you tune in next Monday morning, of course, at 9 o'clock here on WLOX CBS. We'll be talking about dementia, how to detect, maybe early stages of it, something like that. But anyway, thank you for being here with us this week, and we will see you again next Monday morning here on WLOX CBS.
For more information on highlighting your business and services on Healthy Living South Mississippi, contact Jim Tabor at 896-1313.